We just have one more minute before the meeting starts. Okay, I'd like to call this meeting to order for our special council meeting for July the 13th. I want to welcome staff and all of council and anyone who may be watching the recording in the near future. So at this time, I will ask for a moment of silent reflection. Thank you. So at this time, I'll ask anyone that has a declaration of pecuniary interest. Is there anyone have Councillor Archer? So you're declaring now, so that would probably be for R6, I would assume. And at that time, when we get to R6, that basically the clerk will probably have you leave the meeting complete. She'll just block you out and you'll be gone at that time, okay? So as of right now, we'll just run the meeting as normal and you'll be making motions and raising your hand as usual, hopefully. So I'm looking for a motion to approve the agenda as circulated and or as amended. Councillor War, Deputy Mayor Burt, all in favor? With a show of hands, that's carried. Thank you. Now on to the consent agenda. So we'll be talking R1, which is the water wastewater recruitment. Candace, I guess you'll be talking R1.
It's a consent agenda, Mayor, so we're just looking for a motion.
Oh, sorry. Yep, looking for a motion. Councillor Walsh, Councillor Archer, all in favor? With a show of hands, that's carried. Okay, you want to discuss R1 then, Candace? Is that what we're doing?
No, so R1 was on the consent agenda. So with that motion, that report has been received. So now we would move on to R2.
Staff and committee reports then. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so R2 would be normally Shane Smith, our bylaw enforcement officer. This report has to do with the proposed amendments to parks and facilities, traffic and parking bylaw. Obviously, Candace, then you'll be taking this report then.
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. I will be filling in for Shane and delivering this report and do my best to answer any questions that you may have. This report is proposing to make two amendments, one amendment to the Parks and Facilities bylaw, as well as an amendment to our existing parking bylaw. Both of these amendments will address growing concerns and will restrict the use and define the use in the Trent River access points on municipally loaned properties. What we have done is we've added definition of public access point to the Parks and Facilities bylaw. So it shall mean any route, roadway, highway, trail, path, road allowance, easement, or other similar meaning that provides access through or access across municipally owned lands to provide admittance to the shoreline of bodies of water or other natural features. So as of right now, the township does not have any designated boat launches other than the Birdsall Wharf, which we co-own with OSM. So the bylaw does not include governing that area. It is all of the other access points that the township has along the Trent River that have no docks, that are basically the end of the road allowances that run into the Trent River. What we have seen this summer, which staff does believe is COVID-19 related, an influx of tourists using these areas for uses that have created a health and safety concern, as we have individuals launching boats at the same time as individuals swimming, fishing. Day camping has been an issue in these points, as well as the utilization of hibachi barbecues, and with it being so dry. And there's just logistically not enough space down there to have all of those uses happening in the same location at the exact same time without there being a great concern for health and safety. As well as it has been looked at from all perspectives from management team. The fire chief has concerns in regards to some of the incidents we've seen there in the last 3 to 4 weeks. An emergency vehicle would not be able to access the area and get right down to the water if needed. That is a great concern. But we also, on the flip side of addressing these concerns, we want to ensure that there is appropriate designations for parking so people can utilize the space appropriately. So what staff has proposed is a 120-meter section. It has been measured out. Staff has looked up the approximate length of a boat and trailer, as well as the average size of a boat or vehicle without a trailer, and determined with appropriate spacing, and assuming people are parking with appropriate spacing, that we would be able to fit 10 trucks and trailers or 25 cars or vehicles without trailers. At this time, obviously we'll be monitoring the area, but at this time, we feel that that should be enough space to allow individuals to utilize the trail. If there's no boats and trailers down there, 25 individuals would be able to park to utilize the trail, which we feel is an adequate amount at this time. As well as staff will be going, public works staff will be going down to the area to widen it, to utilize, to take some of our space back that has become overgrown and try to improve sight lines in the area that will also address a health and safety concern down there. Again, the main concern is the 5th line boat launch, but we have seen some other concerns in some other areas on Old Orchard Road as well. So those areas are included on the bylaw. So it is a blanket coverage for all Trent River access points, except for the Birdsall Wharf. We will be taking a look at this again after COVID to see if the restrictions that are being proposed today do need to remain in effect ongoing beyond the 2020 season. So we'll revisit it, but ultimately, regardless of COVID, having a space as narrow as some of these spaces are, having the ability to have swimming, fishing, day camping, and boat launching in the same area is always going to present a concern. So the areas are going to have to be governed, but the restrictions will be revisited again in the future. So I can take any questions, Mayor.
Council, any questions at this time? Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Candace, for the report, and through the mayor. Yeah, thank you. I did have a few questions earlier, and they were addressed in the report today. I agree that boat launches or boat access points aren't places to swim and to barbecue and to picnic, and I feel that this addition to the bylaw is certainly appropriate. And yeah, my concern was more because I do know there are a number of local people who do use the launch for their boats, and they do use the space appropriately. So knowing that space of parking area allows the 25 cars or 10 trucks and trailers, that's surprising. I didn't think you could fit that many in there, but thank you for looking into that for me. So, and just the idea that the township will be making that road a little bit safer for trucks to back in there, a little bit wider, and using the property. So those were my main concerns, and I was glad to see them addressed. And those are my comments. So not really any questions, but those are my comments. So thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else, Council? Councillor Walsh.
Through you, Mayor. Candace, can you just confirm, I jotted it down here, we have the ability to park up to 25 cars and 10 trucks and trailers, or one or the other?
It's an or.
Or okay.
It's an or, and so it would, obviously I would assume it would be, the potential would be a combination of both of
Okay.
those.
Yeah.
But we didn't go through all the different scenarios, but decided how many vehicles could park there, or how many boats and trailers could park there. If people are parking with a reasonable, appropriate amount of space in between.
Okay, and based on monitoring it the last little while, do we feel that that's going to be adequate?
More than enough.
Okay, awesome.
More than enough, yeah.
Okay,
Councillor
you.
War?
Through you, Mayor. I have a question about the signage. If the feeling is that it should be a boat launch only and that barbecuing or picnicking and swimming should be prohibited, would signage be an appropriate thing to put up that it's a boat launch only, or would that be a conversation to have later?
No, so if the proposed bylaw amendments are adopted today, then the sites will be signed appropriately. So it will say, because they're not actually deemed boat launches, because there's no docks or hitching your boat capabilities, for lack of a better term, you can't tie your boat anywhere there. So they're actually just access points. So we would sign appropriately to label and state this is the prohibited uses, these are the acceptable uses. The parking on the Fifth Line Road will be parked, there'll be green parking signs that'll designate the area with the bylaw numbers, because as soon as we sign something, we have to put the bylaw number on the sign in order for it to be enforceable. So they will all be signed after today if it's approved.
Go ahead.
Just a follow up to that through you, Mayor. So are we going to take another look at this bylaw in the spring of 2021, or would it, like, after in the fall? When do you think the proposal would be to look at what's happening?
So we'll take a look, management team will take a look at it again at the end of the season. So we'll discuss it at a management team meeting and kind of see, we're going to monitor the use now for the remainder of this year, and then see what the road widening looks like. We have to look at the parking, see what that looks like, make sure it's been enough. Is it enough? Can we squeeze more in? Should we squeeze more in? Can we open the restricted uses? Should we not? And a lot's going to be governed into the climate of COVID come next spring. So completely predicting the timing, I'm not sure, but there'll be a full review of all the sites in the fall, and then we'll take a look at it again and see if we need to do something for the spring.
Thanks, Candace.
Any other questions, Council? Okay, seeing no hands, I'm looking for a motion then to receive and approve to adopt. I guess that's what we'd be looking for. Deputy Mayor Burt and Councillor Walsh. All in favor? Unanimous show of hands. Thank you. That's carried. So now on to R3 would be Ed Whitmore, our CBO planner, and this report is concerning notice of complete condo applications for blocks 24 and 25 on Maple Avenue. Ed Whitmore, please.
Yes. Okay, so a little bit of background information on this. You'll see that all the items attached here, it's quite lengthy. This has been going on since 2013 when we passed the zoning bylaw amendment to allow for condominiums. And then we entered into the pre-servicing agreement, and then we entered into a subdivision agreement, and then we've done a merger agreement, and now the condominium development agreement is coming forward with draft plan conditions. So there's several steps into getting this through and getting this passed. And in the future, we'll be bringing forward a condominium development agreement and also a site plan control agreement, hopefully shortly. These are the 10 units in each building. There's going to be 2 buildings in total. They're 3 stories in height. We've already had a public meeting regarding this for the zoning bylaw amendment that was done. So this is just another process, and the buildings look pretty good. You know, they're very nice in appearance. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Council, any questions at this time? Deputy Mayor?
Just a quick question, Ed, through you, Mayor. So this started in 2013. Is that a normal length of time for this type of development to take? Or obviously, I just wonder if there were a lot of things that had to go back and forth that perhaps delayed it. I'm just curious.
Each developer is on their own time frame. Like we don't force people into doing it faster or slower. Usually people proceed when they have enough interest in it from the public. Maybe there's enough demand for, maybe they're selling the units and they have enough there in order to proceed. Or some developers are a lot quicker, some developers may be slower. So, yeah.
You're kind of breaking up on us there, Ed. You're froze now on the
Okay.
It's
screen.
okay.
Ed, would you remove your video and just go to audio only, please? See
Yes.
if we have more success that way.
Okay, so how's that?
Good.
Good.
Any other questions, council? Okay, seeing no questions. So this motion then would be to receive and support and approve the draft plan conditions and to also authorize staff to forward the draft plan conditions to Peterborough County. Councillor Archer and Councillor War. All in favor? Unanimous show of hands. Okay, thank you. That's carried. Thanks, Ed, on that report. Don't leave us yet, though. Our
Okay.
fourth then would be Candace White, our CAO Clerk Treasurer. This report has got to do regarding the ICIP Rural Northern Stream, the contribution agreement for the reconstruction of the Center Line Road. Candace, please.
Yes, so this is a good news story. So this is the contribution agreement which binds the federal government, the provincial government, and the municipality. So all three tiers, all three levels of government are coming together to fund this exciting, almost $2 million project in the province. So once the contribution agreement is signed, it's legal and binding, so the project can flow. We can incur expenses that will be funded under the project. The RFP was released for the engineering and design of this project last week. So staff will be receiving those proposals at the end of the month, going through the scoring matrix and making a recommendation to select the engineering firm who's going to move forward with the project at the next meeting in August. Then staff will work with that successful proponent throughout the fall and early winter on the design of the project and the construction drawings and the tender package, in hopes that the tender package will be released for construction February, March-ish of 2021, in hopes then that it can be completed in the 2021 construction season. What the contribution agreement entitles today is the township committing to $128,164.05 of the approximate $1.9 million cost. So as you can see, it's approximately 5%. The remaining 95% is being funded by the other levels of government. Where this project will include from the third line all the way to County Road 45 on Center Line Road. So culvert replacements, you can see in the staff report, there's 30 cross culvert replacements, 48 entrance culvert replacements. All of the intersections, which I believe there's 7 of them, will see improvements as much as they can be improved after they've already existed, but they will try to improve some sight lines, etc. As well, obviously, it's going to get surface treated after that point in time. So very exciting story. So I'll leave it with council if they have any questions.
Council, questions?
Oh, that's good.
Okay, seeing no questions, I think this is a good news story. Thanks very much to staff for lobbying to the government as well as what you did to write that out to get us the grants. That's a job well done. Thank you very much. So I'm looking for a motion then on this one to receive and to authorize the mayor and the clerk to enter into this said agreement then with the government. Councillor Walsh and Councillor Archer. All in favor? Unanimous show of hands. Thank you very much. That's carried. R5 then would be Ed Whitmore back again. This report regarding site plan control area with bylaw 2017-58. Ed, please unmute yourself and you can chat.
Yes, so the main reason for bringing this site plan control area bylaw back to council is because we've had so many calls from real estate and from potential property owners wishing to establish some cannabis production facilities. So they would like to grow cannabis in some greenhouses or in some warehouses. And in order to make sure that we are good neighbors and we are omitting any parking concerns or odor concerns, or just to be a real good neighbor. And for the most part, agricultural development is exempt from site plan control. So this amendment, including the new definitions here, will bring cannabis production or cannabis processing, the various types of facilities, it'll bring that into site plan control, because there's no other way to enforce carbon filters to omit the odor of cannabis. So the cannabis smell is very strong, and it's could be considered fairly offensive. So this way, by having a site plan control agreement, we can require them to have carbon filters in the buildings and register this little agreement on title, so that if the production facility sells to a new owner, the new owner is required to keep these carbon filters in place. So it'll just offset any future complaints that we will have. I've actually been in some cannabis growing facilities in another township that had hundreds and hundreds of plants growing in them. And with these carbon filters installed, there was absolutely no odor. You couldn't even tell there was one plant in there, let alone hundreds and hundreds. So that's the main reason for the cannabis section that's been part of your package, the bylaw. It highlights the new definitions. And also, we would like to change the definition for a multi-dwelling unit. When we have a row house of 3 or greater than 3 units, right now we would have to bring it to council for approval instead of staff being able to approve this in-house. And so what we're proposing is greater than 6. So I've never really seen any or even had any inquiries on a row house or a townhouse greater than 6 units. I know they make them bigger than that in the large urban centers, but we've never had any inquiries. Most of them would be 4 to 6 at the most. So if there's any questions, I would gladly answer them.
Council? Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, Ed, and through you, Mayor. This is more along the lines of the cannabis section of the report. I think it's a good idea that we are moving forward with this site plan control. I was in a couple of conferences in the winter and sat in on some cannabis information sessions, and many of the municipalities, particularly to the west of us in southwestern Ontario, they were having a lot of issues with growers down there and the neighbors, and they really didn't have any control over it. So I think being proactive versus reactive is a smart thing to do. And just to clarify, this is for indoor greenhouse facility growing only. This doesn't pertain to outdoor growing. Is that correct, Ed?
That is correct. The province has deemed the outdoor growing an agricultural use.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, Council? Councillor Walsh?
Yeah, Ed, and actually, thank you, Candace. You actually answered a couple of my questions on this, but So if we had a dwelling come forward that was less than 6 units, that had no planning issues, no zoning bylaw issues, no minor variance issues, it could actually proceed without council needing to approve anything, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. I guess my only
So
thought.
right now,
Sorry, go ahead.
sorry, I should readdress that question. Right now, our zoning bylaw allows 4 dwelling units in a row house maximum.
Okay,
So if somebody applies for a 4-unit townhouse, after this bylaw is passed, we would be able to not bring it to council. But if somebody wants to put in a 5-unit or a 6-unit townhouse or row house, then we would have to go for a zoning bylaw amendment.
okay,
And so we will address that at a later housekeeping bylaw, or I mean a housekeeping zoning bylaw in the future,
Okay.
but just not today, one thing at a
Okay.
time.
okay. And I guess, as I spoke to Candace in regard to this, my only sort of thought, concern was, and I think Candace eased my mind, is even if there was something that was 3, 4 row houses together, when it's not coming through council, we're not necessarily always aware. So I'm trusting that staff will still keep us posted if there are such developments happening in town, that I just wouldn't want to get caught off guard by a resident asking me about a construction taking place in town, and not be aware of what's going on with it.
Candace, you had something you want to add to that?
Yes, so when we're talking about dwelling units of this size, and if you take a look at the fabric of the village, because it would be in the village that of Norwood, that these would be taking place. When you take a look at the fabric and the parcels of land that are available with all the constraints with Orca, the Ooze River, the Mill Pond, the settlement area boundaries, if you look at our official plan mapping, the zoning bylaw mapping, and how the land use designations on each property currently exist, the odds of a property being able to host a 4, 5, or 6 unit dwelling and not need a single planning application of some sort, whether it be a minor variance, of rezoning, an official plan amendment, any one of the above, is quite slim. Not going to say impossible, because I haven't taken a look at every single parcel of land in the village, but I can tell you it would be quite slim. Also, the building department has the ability to issue building permits. We don't bring every building permit that the building department issues back to council, because you guys don't want us to do that. For one thing, you don't need to know every building permit that's issued, but anything that's on a large scale that could potentially have a public interest component to it, that's what comes back to council. It's the public interest that's going to trigger that conversation. It shouldn't be red tape or cost borne to the developer, because the zoning bylaw housekeeping amendment, when it comes forward after the new official plan, the recommendation quite likely is going to come forward that the zoning bylaw amendment will increase from 4 to 6 as well. The provincial policy statement, the growth plan, the province is pushing the municipalities hard to get these more diverse housing units up and going, and we need to do our part in eliminating red tape and costs to the developer that really aren't needed. And that's the driving force behind it. So public interest will be rest assured, we'll always take care of that. Planning applications, 98% of the time is going to happen. So you're going to have the public consultation process as well as the council member involvement at that point. And anything that by chance that some developer gets lucky and is able to acquire a piece of land that doesn't require a single planning application, that'll be a good news story, and it'll come to council anyway. So
Okay, awesome. Thanks for clarifying, Candace.
you're welcome.
Any other questions, council? Okay, seeing none at this time, then thanks, Ed. We're looking for a motion then to receive and approve the recommended amendments to this bylaw. Councillor Ward and Deputy Mayor Laurie Burt, please. All in favor? With a show of unanimous hands, that's been carried. Thank you. So moving on to R6, we do have a pecuniary interest at this time. So Councillor Archer, we'll probably say goodbye to you at this time, and thanks for joining us with the meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, have a good afternoon, sir.
You too. Thanks again.
Yep, bye. Okay, I just get confirmation from our CAO that he is actually out of the meeting.
Counselor Archer has officially left the meeting.
Okay, thank you for that. Okay, our sixth then, that we'll be looking for Ed again. This is regarding site plan approval for the Archer property known as 11 Albine Street. Ed, if you want to give us some explanation, please.
Yes, okay. So this site plan approval is required due to the current site plan control bylaw where it says any housing greater than 3 requires council approval. And so everybody would be aware that at 11 Albine Street, we went through a zoning bylaw amendment to rezone it from the R1 to R2 to allow a 4-unit row house to be installed. And that recently went through council earlier this year. And so this is just a follow up to allow the building permit and to allow the construction of it is immediately ongoing. The occupancy is to be September or October this fall. So time is of essence. We included the site plan application for your review and a copy of the building plans and also a copy of the site plan for council's information. And I'm here to answer any questions regarding this. So there is no written agreement with this because it's a very simple 4-unit row house and nothing is required.
Hey, thanks, Ed. Council, any questions at this time? All right, seeing no questions. So then we're looking for a motion to receive for information and to authorize the mayor and the clerk to execute a site plan approval between Mr. Archer and the corporation. Deputy Mayor Burt and Councillor Walsh. All in favor? Unanimous show of hands, that's been carried. Thank you. So thanks a lot, Ed, for all your information and your hard work that you do for us.
Okay, you're very welcome. Bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, R7 then. Candace, that'd be the management action list from council, please. You're on mute still.
Quickly go through this, just so you guys have some sort of idea of what we're up to in the July 28th meeting. It is a pretty heavy meeting. So we have a zoning bylaw amendment coming forward for Mapleview. We're also so there will be a public meeting. So this is part of the consent application that went through for Mapleview. This is the next step of that for the expansion on that site. And then again in August, you'll see that there's 3 zoning bylaw amendments coming forward. So it'll be a big public meeting. And one of the ones that you can see there on number 26 is the zoning bylaw amendment for cannabis. So again, that is going to take what the site plan control, what we've done today for cannabis for that. We're going to be adding some wording to our zoning bylaw to just add some more teeth in as far as how we can govern that land use in the township and some setbacks into the settlement areas, etc. So that all of those are going to be released to all of the 120 meter properties except for the cannabis one, because there's really no property. It's going to be a blanket wide notification because the cannabis could affect any property throughout the township. So we have to do broad publication. So it'll go in a couple of newspapers, the website, that sort of thing. Nothing direct, no direct mail. Snowblower tender results, surplus equipment. 2 presentations are coming. So we're going to see the master rec plan. Hopefully we'll see that approval coming forward at the next meeting, as well as the growth plan presentation. So the growth plan document is done. That is going to govern where we need to spend dollars in the next few years to handle the growth that we are experiencing and for infrastructure related items, water, wastewater, and storm in all of the facilities. So water tower, booster pumping stations, treatment facilities, distribution systems, collection systems, all of those infrastructure items have been addressed in this plan. We've been working on it for about the last 7 months, and the final draft I approved last week. So it's exciting to see it coming forward. So Engage Engineering will be here to answer any questions. I do ask that when council does receive the agenda with that report in it, if you could put your eyes to reading that report in the agenda first, and then any sort of questions that you have can get back to myself as soon as you can, so that, because I'm going to have to flip potentially those over to the engineer so that he has time, so that we have a productive conversation at the council meeting, so he isn't having to maybe get back to us later, that sort of thing. So any of your questions that you have, I can flip to him in a timely fashion. That would be greatly appreciated. Outside of that, you're probably going to see the condo development agreements that we just discussed with Ed's report for the condo development. They're drafted and ready to go. And if you see anything else there that you have any questions about, the next 2 meetings are going to be fairly large, which they always are in the summer, as we're on summer schedule normally. So I'll leave it with council to ask any questions.
Council, any questions? Deputy Mayor?
I just have a quick question, Candace. You're saying about the growth plan presentation. Does that have to be sent out with the agenda on the Thursday or Friday, or can it be sent out earlier? I'm not sure.
I don't know how soon I'm gonna. As soon as I have it, I will put it in your hands. But it will
Okay.
have to come back out in the agenda again. So
Yeah,
you'll receive
no,
it
that's fine. I
twice.
just didn't know if we could get our hands on it earlier. So
Yeah, I don't have the final yet.
Okay.
I signed off on the draft, and they're putting the final document together. And I gave them till Wednesday at noon to get it to me. So
Okay.
you may get it Thursday. You may get an extra 24 hours out of it.
Okay, that's fine. Thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Any other questions, council? Okay, seeing none, then we'll take a motion to accept the report then, please. Councillor War and Councillor Walsh, all in favor? Unanimous show of hands, thank you. All right, that's basically almost concludes. So I guess we'll ask for the bylaws to be read, please.
Being a bylaw to regulate and to promote responsible shared use and enjoyment of parks and related facilities for bylaw 2019-49 as amended.
Looking for a motion. Councillor Walsh, Deputy Mayor Burt, all in favor? That would be carried. Thank you. Next.
Being a bylaw to regulate traffic and parking on highways and roadways within the jurisdiction of the Township of Asphodel-Norwood, bylaw 2017-05 as amended.
Motion, please. Councillor War and Councillor Walsh, all in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Next.
Being a bylaw to authorize execution of an agreement between Her Majesty the Queen in right of the Province of Ontario and the Corporation of the Township of Asphodel-Norwood for the Investing in Canada Infrastructure Program Rural and Northern Stream for the Centerline Road Reconstruction Project for bylaw 2020-30.
Deputy Mayor Burt and Councillor War, all in favor? That would be carried. Thank you. Next.
And being a bylaw to designate the Township of Asphodel-Norwood as a site plan control area known as bylaw 2020-31.
Motion, please. Councillor Walsh, Deputy Mayor Burt, all in favor? That's carried.
And confirming bylaw, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the special meeting of the Council of the Township of Asphodel-Norwood held on July 13th, 2020, known as bylaw 2020-32.
Thank you. Councillor War and Deputy Mayor Burt, all in favor? That's carried. And then we're looking for a motion to adjourn at 3:08 p.m. and then council will reconvene on July 28th or by the call of the chair. So looking for a motion. Councillor Walsh and one more, Councillor War. All in favor? Thank you. Like nobody wanted to leave. That's carried. Thank you very much. Thanks to staff. Keep up the good work. Be safe. Is there any papers for me to sign today then, Melanie? All right, when do you want me to come down then to do that? 10, 20 minutes? Okay, see you then. All right, thanks, council.
Thanks.
Have
Bye-bye.
a-
Everybody.
Have a good weekend. Bye for now.
Bye now.